Hey, this is Chef Dave Martin. You're listening to Shawn Rosler on the Coarse Grind Podcast. Let's eat.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is episode number 46 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. I was never good at math. That's why I was an English teacher. I'm surprised I can count this high. But again, it is episode number 46 with you as always. Host, creator, Shawn Rosler. How is everyone doing this evening? You know, it's funny how the episode after our Ren Faire experience is the morning after our Ren Faire experience. And any of you who know me know that after a good night of gluttony the next morning, I really like to follow with the same. And if I'm on the road, I love it even more, especially if I can find something, say, I wouldn't necessarily get locally. So as we four road-weary, see beverage-beaten, travelers were looking for a brunch, we stumbled upon a visually stunning establishment, the Aussie and the Fox, and the rest led me to tonight's episode. In 2011, tonight's guest, a Lancaster native, along with her Australian-born partner, had a dream to open up a restaurant. After moving back to Lancaster and partnering with Frank Fox, the dream began to become a reality. By blending the two identities of the playful, modern Aussie and the timeless sophistication of the Fox, a unique dining concept was born. The Aussie and the Fox embodies these two distinct personalities, and their contrast influences every detail. And having eaten there before, this host can assure you that every little detail is both unique and familiar, comforting and boundary nudging without being overly so. All in all, the combination is literally one of the most masterful ones I've ever encountered, let alone for a brunch. But food and establishment aside, there's a story, and I, for one, can't wait to dig into it with one part of the beautiful equation that has brought this culinary brilliance to me this evening. So let's get down to it. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, my guest this evening, co-owner and operator of Aussie and the Fox in Lancaster, that's Kister, not Caster, Ms. Julia Morrell. Julia, how are we doing this evening?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. You know, again, you came to us at a very dire time of need, something to soak up the libations of the Ren Faire, and I don't know that I've ever so elegantly soaked them up before. The experience was pure brilliance, and I can't wait to lean in a little bit to the foundation that is now one of my favorite restaurants in the Lancaster area. So for those of you new to the show, for those of you listening and have shitty short-term memories like myself, starters, mains, afters. Starters, we're going to get to the heart of where the interviewee has come from, mains, where they're at, and afters, a little bit off the cuff, a little bit more fun, but no one's been injured in 46 episodes, 45 rather, and so I see no reason for that to happen this evening. So without further ado, Ms. Julia Morrell, tell me about where and what you grew up eating.
I grew up in Lancaster County. I grew up on a dairy farm. Definitely meat and potato food. You know, dinner rolls at every meal, potatoes at every meal, the side of something green at every meal. So just pretty traditional Lancaster County food.
Sure. And actually, oddly enough, as I joked with my last guest, my wife is from Allentown, so she brought up roots, and I'm like, holy shit, I know roots. I've seen it. So that's awesome. So, and I know, loaded question for Lancaster County, because I've never encountered anyone truly picky, but were you a picky eater growing up, or no?
No, not at all. I wasn't. No, not even with vegetables or anything. We had a vegetable garden, and my mom made me eat everything. Mm-hmm. If we didn't finish it, it would be sitting there for breakfast the next morning. We didn't eat for breakfast, it would be sitting there for lunch. So, yeah.
And, you know, I didn't grow up on a farm or anything, but my parents would pull the same stuff on me, so I can definitely respect that. Looking back to that, you know, and obviously you're right there in the area still, but obviously you've switched modes a little bit. You know, people tend to say that, like, your palate tells your story, your palate is your history. Are there childhood foods that you look back to and you think, wow, that means the world to me, that really tells a story, that gives me a pang of nostalgia? Is there anything you look back to like that?
Childhood dishes or memories?
It can be childhood dishes, or it can be memories based on those dishes.
No, I mean, I definitely have childhood favorites. Like, ham loaf, macaroni and cheese. Like, if I go out to a place now and they have that on the menu, I'm going to order that, like, no matter what time of year, no matter what time of day.
Sure. And growing up, obviously you've landed in the restaurant biz, and I want to dig into that more. But obviously, food seemed a little more to you than most. Did you have a culinary influence when you were young?
Not really. And my husband and I are in this business, but I don't think we're the typical restaurant owners. We are not. We aren't here because we're so passionate about food.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no.
So, what, and actually, I'm going to kind of cheat out of the box a little bit and bring in the second subject, obviously, your husband. What brought you to this? What exactly made you realize, hey, this is something we could do? What was that aha moment for you?
Yeah, growing up, I always loved the cafe environment. He always loved the cafe environment. We wanted to open a cafe when we were living in Australia. I knew that my grandfather would be a great person to partner with. That's who Frank Fox is. We just spoke to him, and he said, I would love to help you create that, make that a reality. He is a lot more passionate about food. He has traveled the world and is very passionate about food. And he was thinking, let's open a restaurant. And we were kind of thinking we were a little bit more passionate about the cafe scene and the coffee scene, and that environment. We're both like super laid back people, and we were envisioning, drinking coffees all day and hanging out with people and talking. And it's turned out to be much bigger than that, which has been a blessing. And also a curse, though. It's a hard industry.
Sure, absolutely. And that definitely comes across. That was one of the first things that just pummeled us in the face, because it's like, this isn't just a restaurant. There's a lot going on here. Like, I noticed the movie night, the projectors, the huge, I mean, that's a no-joke coffee machine you have at that bar there. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about, price points and specs, but I think even a layperson like myself could look at that and go, well, that's practically a Cadillac. And so obviously that presence hits you in the face. But then, for not being about that restaurant scene, good Lord Almighty, did my face almost melt off from that brunch. It was spectacular. And the drinks certainly helped it. So where did the inspiration for the drinks alone come from? Because we've got to talk about those. Yeah. They are I've never found anything like them anywhere else. So where did that drink menu come from?
So a lot of what's happening behind the bar is inspired by Australia, and we felt like we could bring the Australian influence into Lancaster County from a coffee standpoint and a drink standpoint. In Australia, the coffee machine is always behind the bar, and all the desserts are always behind the bar as well. There's a really cool mix and collage of alcohol, dessert, and coffee that happens in Australia. Cafes and bars. So a lot of that inspiration came from the bar. All the coffee did. We actually created our own coffee bean with a local company, Gerhardt Coffee. And then as far as cocktails go, we just wanted to keep everything super fresh and local. Make it craft cocktails, but keep it simple. Like our Bloody Marys, we get every ingredient from Central Market. It's a mixture of fresh squeezed tomatoes, fresh squeezed cucumbers, green peppers, and celery. All of our cocktails, we're making the simple syrups from scratch. So a lot of that influence came from Australia.
Yeah,
and Lancaster, and just it being, local produce and local, everything.
Sure. So you're almost beginning a new movement, farm to bar. I mean, that's... because everything that I tasted, and believe me, I tasted everybody's drink, it was so fresh, so undeniably fresh, like I've never tasted before, and I think that's part of what made it so amazing. I had the, what was the coffee? It was a cold coffee?
Yeah, the Mr. Fox.
Oh, yep. God in heaven. Listen, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to go on record and say my head was pounding a little bit more than I admitted to. And that just peeled it right off. I'm like, this is brilliant. I want to bottle this. I want to have this again. And the taste was so incredible. There was a flower on top of it, I believe, wasn't there?
Yeah, so that drink is cold brew coffee, lavender bitters, and the lavender on top, flower on top. There's vodka in it, and then a honey simple syrup.
Oh my God. I literally walked out of there feeling like $1,000,000, and it tasted so beautiful, so floral, like nothing I'd ever encountered. And then my wife, as we were joking before we started rolling, had the rhubarb barella. What's that about again?
That's a cocktail just on our brunch menu. I actually don't know that one by heart. It's got champagne in it. Mm-hmm. It's got rhubarb bitters in it, and possibly grapefruit juice.
That sounds about right. And I got turned on to Pimm's probably about 10 years ago, and I know there's a certain bitter element. It's not true bitters, but it's a more traditional drink like that. And I've noticed that bitters, especially now custom craft bitters, mm-hmm. are making a strong showing. And again, that wasn't lost on that menu at all. And a brunch menu too. Just as an aside, as I'm sure you and your husband and the Fox know. Can I refer to him as the Fox? Is that cool?
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Yeah.
All right. A brunch menu is sometimes a hard thing to swing. It's either it hits or it doesn't. And you guys were slammed. We got there right as you opened, and by the time we left, there wasn't much room to move.
Yeah.
So, is that a typical Sunday for you?
Typically, it is a little bit of a slow start, and then we usually do between 130 and 190 people every Sunday, which for us, we're a 20-table restaurant. There's about 60 seats in here. So we're usually turning every table, 3 times or so. So it's good. It keeps us moving, and and definitely there's slower times of the year. Yeah. Summer's a little bit slower, but we're moving into the busy time, going closer to Christmas.
Yeah, so for not having the food background, for focusing on the cafe, I'd go out on a limb here and say you guys know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of trial and error, but as we decided, this isn't going to be a cafe, it's going to be a restaurant, we really realized we need to hire people that have the skill sets that we don't have, take care of them, and just manage people well and, be good bosses. So we brought in a crew of people that know what the hell they're doing, because we don't. We've never done this before. And just take care of them and work with them. And you got to be quick to change the things that need to be changed and understand your brand well enough to know what you kind of got to stick to your guns with, what you want to educate people on and say, this is a part of our brand and this is going to stay how we have it. And when to say, okay, this isn't working, the public doesn't like this, how are we going to adjust it?
Yeah, and you definitely have a brand going. Like I think that's an important point to bring up, for being, not necessarily typical restaurateurs or anything like that. Like, you walked in there, you knew it was a place. I knew, and this is episode 46. I've been at the show a little bit, but I've been eating much longer. And so when I walk into a joint, I know when it's going to hit. And no sooner did my hand touch the door, I'm like, this is going to be legit. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure why. I haven't looked at a menu yet, but I knew it was going to come down the pipe. Kind of moving over now in topic to the culinary inspiration. Obviously, the drink, the coffee thing came from Australia. I think that's awesome. It's an awesome premise, awesome platform. Obviously there's a food element to it, and your executive chef is Brent Golding, correct?
Yes. Yep. He is from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So all local. Pseudo local. You're sourcing everything locally. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Grew up in Gettysburg. He's been all over the country. Most recently in Nashville, which is where he came from to work for us. But he wanted to return back to the Lancaster County roots and back to the Lancaster County produce to become a head chef.
Oh man, that's awesome. So looking at that food element, realizing you and the husband, aren't necessarily in the food element, how much of a part do you play in menu construction?
More so as we move along. Chefs are so talented and creative, and ours certainly is. but we recognize as owners that we need to continue to direct the menu towards something that's going to sell, because it is a business. And just because something is a great dish conceptually, and even a great dish that's come out and presented, a lot of people in Lancaster County want something that's a little bit more approachable, not only in verbiage and what's on the plate, but in appearance. People around here aren't as curious as they might be in Philadelphia or New York. So as we move along, we've been having more and more influence over the menu, and actually it's going to be changing again next week, and have a lot of dishes on that we've asked to have put on.
Cool. And when you're selecting those dishes, where are you looking to kind of pull from? Are you like kind of envisioning them? Are you finding them somewhere, putting a spin on them? How is it you're coming into those?
Some of the dishes, especially on the brunch menu, are inspired from our last trip to Australia in January. Just going, we obviously Colin grew up in Australia and I lived there for a while. But going back with fresh eyes after opening a restaurant, you see things differently and think, oh, that would work in Lancaster, but they would not eat this element, or we can't source that locally and freshly, so we can't include that on the dish. So a lot of the brunch items have that feel. And for dinner menus, we're just trying to pare back the menu a little bit. So I am actually going back to my roots and saying, this is stuff that I grew up loving, like the meatloaf, like the macaroni and cheese. Let's make it awesome, though. Let's make it to the caliber which we can, but make it sound a little bit more approachable and be a little bit more appealing on the menu.
Sure, that's awesome. So looking at that from start to where you're at, maybe even a little bit down the road, is there something you look at on any one of the menus that you kind of hang your hat on as the signature Aussie in the Fox dish? If there's a top 3, we'll take that too. Anything like that?
There's a couple items on our menu that are not changing. Or if they do change, it just changes little tweaks here and there. One of them is the Australian pie. It's always on our menu. It's really cool. It's like almost like a chicken pot pie or shepherd's pie, only it's totally encrusted in like its own individual pie. We have one on the breakfast menu and one at dinner. The one at dinner changes frequently. Right now it's a tomato pie. Sometimes it's a beef cheek pie. Sometimes it's a chicken pie. That's super Australian. There's just pie shops in Australia. You can go to pie shops that you do drive through, like McDonald's at. It's just a super popular dish. So that's always on our menu. We always have the Aussie burger on the menu. But everything else as of now has been changing very regularly. But we are looking to create, in the next 2 weeks, like I said, our new menu's coming out. We're going to have an A&F Classics on there, and then also have a Chef's Seasonal Selections on there. So hoping to add a couple more favorites onto our menu.
Oh my God, that's terrific. Speaking to that pie, my wife got the pie, and it was amazing. And the most amazing part of it, my wife is a temperature fanatic with restaurant food. That thing was steaming the entire time it was in front of her, all the way through. It was unbelievable, unparalleled. Again, you can do a pie, and I have to call you out on Lancaster County chicken pot pie. I thought that didn't have a crust down there.
Yeah, it has that thick soup, gravy feel to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people, or shepherd's pie or chicken pies around here, people will put a piece of crust on top of it, but not totally enclose it.
Yep.
Like maybe the top of the casserole will have it on, but not encompass it.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was incredible. I had the it was a playoff of corned beef hash. Help me.
Pork barbecue hash.
Oh my God. I mean, literally, I took a slow motion video. I have to send this to you. I'll send it to you on Facebook or something. I took a slow motion video of the egg getting popped. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. So well done, so well seasoned from top to bottom, just unbelievable. So, I mean, obviously you have a lot of items to hang your hat on, and you've only been in the market for how long now? I want to say 2 years.
3. We just hit
3?
our 3-year anniversary. Yep.
Wow. I mean, that's something to say, man. To have that much of an impact at just 3 years, I can only imagine what's coming down the pipe. And speaking along those lines, you know, you're in the restaurant business. Now, whether or not, you know, it was more about the food or anything, that's you know, irrelevant at this point. You know, you're looking at trends and everything in food and in dining.
Yes. Have
you seen one that's coming that you're going to either try to embrace or try to avoid?
I mean, from my standpoint here in Lancaster County, you know, we can't ride the trends as much as people can in the big cities. We just don't have the population to support niche trends.
Sure.
I do think that people are looking for food that they can go eat at a restaurant 3 nights a week if they want to. Something that's just good, down to earth, approachable, but just done really well. People just want consistent food. They want to know what they're going to get every time they come in. And sometimes I think trying to be too creative or go too far out of the box, it just complicates things. And I don't think food has to be complicated or dining out has to be this, you know, big experience. You know, we want people to feel special and awesome when they're in here and have an amazing experience. But yeah, I think we're just trying to like simplify things a little bit.
Sure.
And just continue to be consistent.
Yeah. It's like, you know, you don't have to touch your forehead to the Bible before you eat or anything crazy like that. Like, honest to God, that barbecue hash, put it in front of me 7 days a week in the morning, I'm on it. You know, my cardiologist, my physician, probably going to have a shit fit about that, but I'm good with it. I'm fine with it. It's delicious. And, you know, I think one of the greatest adjectives, as soon as we sat down, I looked at my wife, and she looked at me, and she kind of mouths to me, "New episode?" I said, "Yeah, new episode, if we can make this happen." And because the food was it was complex but comfortable. And that's such a rare combination that you can get. But everything you did there was deliberate, was artistic, but was not pretentious in the slightest. Your answer there about consistent and about being able to eat that 3 days a week, that's the perfect combination for the return customer. Do you find you have a lot of returns, a lot of regulars?
We definitely do at Brunch. We have our crew of people that come in every week. And I think we're trying to get there at dinner time, which is hopefully going to happen and start happening for us as we change the menu in the next few weeks. There's a lot of competition in Lancaster right now. There's so many places opening up, and it's definitely hurt business. You know, everybody wants to go try the new hot spot.
Sure.
Yeah, I think there's been over 30 places that have opened since we have. And it's a small town, you know, and some of those are just, you know, different cuisines that don't sound like competition, or some of them might just be donut shops or little cafes, but in the end, it, you know, takes people away.
Yeah, they're definitely still pulling away from you, no matter if it's, you know, Indian, Thai, or, you know, again, Australian comfort food, high-end comfort food, I might say.
Yeah.
Looking like around the area, even though you say it's small, I mean, we're from Bloomsburg. Trust me, we'll show you small.
Okay.
But obviously, with regards to those trends, there's uptrends and there's downtrends. Is there anything going on in the market now that you look at and you go, I just wish that would go away? Whether it's taken away from your business or just an annoying trend.
There's two, and I don't even know if it's quite what you're asking, but I would say vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, you know, people are just on such a high horse about it. And a lot of our customers don't even quite understand. I would say they're not even vegetarian or vegan or have gluten-free issues for health reasons. You know, they just want to follow a trend that they don't quite understand.
Right.
And can kind of be very pretentious people. And I would say a second trend that is just driving me nuts is just Yelp, TripAdvisor, social media, and people's entitlement to opinions and how destructive it can be. And, people's expectations when they walk into a restaurant. And I think that there's just very little room for forgiveness and little room to actually have a great experience when you walk into a restaurant, looking at it through the eyes of a Yelper instead of just on a human level. So there's two trends driving nuts.
I completely agree with you there, and it goes the route of a movie critic, really. Like, I put less than zero in the hands of a movie critic. If it looks interesting, I'm going no matter what. Same thing with a restaurant. And I'll go on public record here to say, like, Yelp needs to chill the F out. Like, it needs to stop being such a significant figure in restaurants. Just because you have a microphone, just because you have the ability to speak doesn't mean you necessarily should. Just because Donald Trump could be president doesn't mean he should. Now, that's going a little political, but, like, point taken. Like, people need to, unless, and again, that's kind of part of this show, is to kind of show the behind the scenes. And I've had more people than not come up to me and say, hey, you know what? I didn't realize, XYZ happens behind the kitchen doors. I'm like, well, no shit. You're not in there. So when you're sitting there the next time, having maybe a less than ideal customer experience, or, maybe it doesn't come out just so, why don't you look around the restaurant, see the place getting slammed, see the 5 people waiting the tables, literally dripping with sweat, still trying to keep a smile, and just chill out a little bit.
Exactly.
It doesn't, like you said before, it doesn't have to be this super high-end concept. Hey, if you're going out for that, then expect that. If you see Chef Thomas Keller on your menu, great, go nuts. But if you're in your local town, or you're in a surrounding town, or you're away on business, don't be a dick. Just chill out about it.
Exactly.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I totally didn't mean to tirade on you there for a minute, but...
I'm on board. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that drives me batshit. So I'm glad to hear someone in the industry kind of echoing that sentiment. Anyway, moving on. So 3 years in, obviously, I think you folks have a really strong formula. You have a strong showing. You have strong product. You have strong drinks, which again helped me that morning. What's next for you guys? 5-year, 10-year plan? What's going on?
I would say we really want to start delving into private events more. Mm-hmm. Our space is so capable of transitioning into different things. Everything's movable. The furniture's movable. I think you mentioned we do movie nights, and we have a big projector system, and we've got the ability to do a lot more with the space. And I really enjoy creating events for people and changing things up, and it's a nice change of pace. So I think maybe getting more involved in doing events. We're getting more involved with local charities and non-profit organizations, supporting them with our space. So doing things that are more, I guess, good for my soul.
Yeah, no, and you nailed it. That space in there. Again, I walked in. It wasn't total restaurant. It wasn't total club. It wasn't total cafe. It was this beautiful mix that literally you could pull anything off in, which is a hard space to make. But I mean, I think you made that happen. Can I ask, were you pretty heavy-handed in the design of the space?
Yeah, I designed the space myself. I actually went to school for interior design. That's what my degree is in. So I had a lot of fun doing this project.
Excellent. And I mean, it shows. Again, we hung out there longer than I typically hang out after, I eat, just because the space was so beautiful, comfortable, and yet elegant all at the same time. It was a wonderful combination. So, again, kudos to you. And I have to admit, I kind of cheated on that question. I think I did read that morning or on the website that you did do a degree in interior design. So, again, degree proven, well worth it. That space is awesome. Awesome. So, moving on to the afters, last section of questions. Again, no one's been injured in 45 episodes, so hopefully this is not the first. But if I'm standing in your kitchen, and you can pick whether it's professionally or at home, what music do I hear?
In my kitchen, probably none, because my husband doesn't let me cook. I'm just a crock pot person. That's all I do. In our kitchen back there, you know what? We let them play whatever they want, and it kind of depends on their mood and who's working. usually I would say they have just like the oldies on in the dish room, because we have a couple older dish people, so oldies or I don't know, whatever they feel like playing, they play back there.
I like that. That's like a musical democracy. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
They're the ones working back there. It's their space. They can own it.
Exactly. So, hypothetical question here, and again, it can be you and the husband. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be stranded on a deserted island. Go with this for a minute. And you're only allowed to take 3 foods with you. What would they be and why?
Oh, jeez. I have no idea. Probably watermelon.
Nice.
I love watermelon, and if we're on a tropical island, might need some water. Probably some type of meat, like steak or something.
Okay.
I don't know. What's another important food group? I guess some sort of vegetable. What's maybe Brussels sprouts or something, because that's a superfood.
I love it.
So there you go. Steak, sprouts, watermelon.
Steak, watermelon, Brussels sprouts. I could probably do that. I wouldn't say till the day I die, but I could do that for a while.
This isn't for purposes of really loving these foods. It's for I want to survive.
You're so functional. So many of the chefs I have on, they're like, all right, well, a bottle of bourbon that's going to refresh itself. I'm like, holy shit, you're amazing. Yeah. Well done. I like it. Is there a dish that has ever gone on your menu that you would never go back to again? You put it on and it was like, oh shit, no, big mistake, and pulled it right off.
There's never been anything in its entirety that I had taken off immediately. There's been elements to a dish where I'll say, this piece of the dish is coming back uneaten every time, get it off immediately. Or it's too dry, just take it off, or, so there's been elements to dishes, that I've asked the chef to take off and change immediately.
I dig it. Yeah. And see, that's the beauty of having someone who's not specifically the foodie restaurateur looking at it, because you can look at it critically and not have your heart on that plate and go, oh, they don't like the frise, or they don't like the fill in the blank.
Yeah, and I think that there's a true benefit, pro and con, to being in this industry and never really being in it before. I mean, I've worked in the restaurant industry my whole life, but never in this level of management and ownership. You're just more creative, and you do look at things a lot less, hurtful. It's just very practical and functional the way we look at things. Because it's not me making the dish. And I can look at it a little bit more creatively and from a different perspective than someone who is owning it from the kitchen, owning the restaurant and running the kitchen at the same time, or creating the dishes themselves.
No, I hear you. That's terrific. So one of the inspirations for the show was Melanie Denea's My Last Supper. Have you ever seen it? It's a coffee table book.
No, I haven't.
So I highly recommend it. I recommend it to everybody. I think I've had literally, which is shocking to me, because she's got a lot of followers on Twitter, I've had maybe 3 guests out of 46 know who it is. And my wife was one of my guests, so, go figure. Yeah. But My Last Supper and the follow-up, which was the next course, is a coffee table book, 50 famous chefs, all ask the same question. You're going to check out tomorrow. What do you want your last meal to be? Who do you want to be there? And why? And so I ask you, Ms. Julia, your last supper, checking out tomorrow, what would you have? Who would be there? And why?
I would have meatloaf and mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese.
I love it.
They're my comfort food favorites from growing up. And I would have myself, my husband, my immediate family, and my husband's immediate family.
Love it. What's the cocktail of choice, given that you have such a raging cocktail menu for brunch?
For myself, or
sure, for anybody.
Probably the Mr. Fox. It's really popular.
I love that drink. Oh my god, I love that drink. just saying that, I'm like, I need to go back to Lancaster for no good reason but to go to Aussie and the Fox. So, and finally, wrapping this up, last question, simplest yet most complex. Julia, what is food to you in a single word?
Experience, or maybe community.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Why community?
I just think it brings people together, especially in this, looking at it from my perspective of what I do, food is bringing community together, people together, whether it's families coming in here, friends coming in here to eat, or us using this as a tool, like I said, to work with charities and create community in our community.
I love it. And that's such a non-executive chef answer. It's such a, looking at it through so many other purposes. So community, huge answer, huge presence in Lancaster, and huge honor to have you on, Julia. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this evening.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
You are so very welcome. AussieandtheFox.com, 38 West King Street in Lancaster. That's Lancaster and Lancaster, PA 17603. Phone number 717-826-4040 for reservations. And again, be sure to check out dinner service. But man, God Almighty, just from personal experience, be sure to check out brunch. It is miraculous. The drink menu's to die for. The food's to die for, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. Again, Julia, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 46 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. My producer, as always, has been the voluptuous Johnny Leland Robinson, a.k.a. Reverend Johnny Lamoria. Be sure to check out his podcast, Cinematic Pig's Feet. And next episode will be number 37. I'm sure it'll be a good one. We'll check you out soon. Take care.